as well. I come from the aspect of health. And I think the fact that all of you have chosen to take this class and to work in agriculture means the same thing is true for you as well. You're interested in being in touch with the earth and not working under fluorescent lights for the rest of your life, under a boss who you may or may not be in a hierarchical relationship with. After a double major in public health and psychology, I ended up in acupuncture college early in my 20s when acupuncture was just becoming primary practice in California. And did a couple of years of that, find that I was what they call needle shy, which meant that I was deathly afraid of either receiving or putting needles in. And at that point, met my herbal mentor and did a master's degree in herbology. So I did not have a farming background. But as time went along, I did do some training in ag and in horticulture, and ended up, of course, taking care of the gardens at the California School of Herbal Studies here in Forestville, and founding the Herb Exchange in 1999. Now, the Herb Exchange is a natural outgrowth of the booming medicinal herb industry in the country, and in a reflection of the Sonoma County demographic in a way. The Sonoma County has such an amazing ground zero approach to medicinal herbs. We were the first herbal college to be founded in the United States, and Rosemary Gladstar, who some of you may know, was the founder not only of the California School of Herbal Studies, but also Traditional Medicinals, Herb Tea Company, which is, of course, nationally known and has headquarters over on Ross Road in the Graydon area. So we have a tremendous herbal heritage that very few places have. We also are about an hour away from a major metropolitan area, and those two factors meant that we have a tremendous amount of interest in medicinal herbs in this area and a climate that supports it, as well as not only a community that supports it, but a number of growers who have been very interested, and several, maybe we say now 3 generations of herbalists. We now have the granddaughters and sons of the original students coming to the California School of Herbal Studies. I've been there for about 18 years taking care of the gardens. I have just a 2-acre garden, so now I'm bringing you back down to the local level and smaller level, of course, with just under 400 species of medicinal herbs growing. So it's primarily a demonstration garden, but we do supply to the Sonoma County Herb Exchange, of course, and the pharmacy of the Herbal College. Also, I think, nationwide, we're looking at an industry and a movement that has become very strong, and it's because several reasons. One is we have a much more sophisticated idea of empowered self-care, I think, in this country than we did probably 20 or 30 years ago. And we have a medical system that a lot of us would say is breaking down. So what this really means is there's a grassroots movement, and we're seeing it all over the place. We've seen it in both Dave's and Lou's talks this morning. We're having a tremendous amount of interest in fermentation, fermented products. Probiotics are very hot right now. Certainly herbal drinks, herbal shots are becoming very popular. And as you all know, if you go into any store these days, the herbal tea shelves are full to the brim. I had a small herbal tea company in the 80s, at the time when you could walk around with your little bag of herbs and find shelf space in alternative stores, natural food stores, and so forth, but it's not the case any longer. It's a much different market. So the Sonoma County Herb Exchange was founded and is responding to a local need for manufacturers of herbs, for tincture makers, for what we call the kitchen witches, those who make pickles in their kitchens and bake bread and make their own tea blends, do tincture making, alcoholic extracts of herbs and so forth. So because we have such a rich county, we really are in a rarefied position to be doing what we're doing in the Herb Exchange. However, we have grown over the past 12 years to the point where, of course, now we are shipping to, we've made a decision, a philosophical decision, to keep our shipping within the United States borders, simply because, of course, of the trouble that we would run into and the regulations that we would encounter if we decided to ship internationally. But we do ship nationally. We localize on the West Coast. We send to various tincture making companies, alcoholic extracts, and tea makers. We do not provide to traditional medicinals here in our backyard, because traditional medicinals is on a scale that is much beyond what we provide at the Herb Exchange. But the way we differentiate is two ways. We are certified organic. Of course, all of our growers either have become certified themselves, belong to a group certification effort. We are CCOF's, California Certified Organic Farmers, first group organic certification because we all grow medicinal herbs. And we are a certified organic processor handler at the Herb Exchange. In two ways we differentiate. One is that most of our growers have signed what is called the Farmer's Pledge. So not only are we at this point certified organic, but that's only about 5 years old at that point. Before that, we were renegades. And we decided that we would do our own peer certification. This was before, I think at this point, organic is a standard in the industry and is becoming more so. And like I think David was, or I think perhaps Lou mentioned the fact that I think it is almost a necessity for you to think about certifying at this point in history. If you do want to differentiate, if you want to become a high quality grower, organic certification is now associated with quality growing. So it's something that you probably better put on the bottom line of what you're doing at this point, from my point in the industry, I would say, particularly if you're interested in growing medicinal herbs. Now, no one that's growing medicinal herbs would ever apply chemical fertilizers or pesticides to their crops. So all of our growers are organic, although not legally so. But we all sign what's called the Farmer's Pledge. And that's a peer certified organic certification, or shall we say sustainable, or IPM management system that was developed in New York. So it's a peer certification, it's simply something that you sign, and it runs by an open, what's called an open gate policy, which means that anyone can come into the farm and inspect your growing practices. So if you're ever interested in something like that, you can look it up online. The Farmer's Pledge is, I think, a very interesting alternative to organic growing if it's something that you want to do. There are also a couple of other ones. There's Mendocino Renegade, started by Dave Smith, who is the one half of Smith & Hawken, and a partner of his in Mendocino County. And then there's another one called Naturally Grown, which also comes from the East Coast. But those are alternatives in terms of differentiating your product. The other, I believe strongly, is high quality. The Sonoma County Herb Exchange produces the best medicinal herbs that we possibly can. And our quality is so high and so far above what you will generally find in the dry herbal medicinal herb market that our customers come back even though our prices are at the very top of the market. So we've got a particular niche that if you find yourself drawn to this field is something that's, I think, very important to think about. We also, when we dry our herbs, we dry them whole. We do not cut and sift, which is the standard for the industry, because we believe that the cell walls should not be broken until the herb is extracted or used or processed into teas. So that's another way in which we differentiate our facilities and our drying facilities. So the way the Herb Exchange operates is that we're a nonprofit. Underneath our parent organization is the Sonoma County Herb Association. And the website, of course, is the Sonoma County Herb Association's website, sonomaherbs.org. The Herb Exchange is a project of the Herb Association. And it is a retail operation, but it's a nonprofit. We're a grower cooperative. We're not legally cooperative, but we operate as a cooperative. In other words, all of our growers make all of the decisions. We do everything, if not by consensus, certainly by general agreement and, grunting yes or no when we're in meeting. We have an annual meeting. The growers, I would say, make all of the decisions, all of our policy decisions, including all of our prices. So each one of our growers has looked at the medicinal herb market nationwide and has gauged where the herb should be placed in terms of its pricing. We do that in terms of how hard it is to harvest, how hard it is to process. We call it garbling when we take, for instance, elderberry, something that's on the trees right now, one of the finest herbs on the planet, in fact. Some of you may know elderberry. This is one of the finest antivirals we have on the planet. It can be made into syrups, it can be dried, it can be put into tea, it can be made into alcoholic extracts, all sorts of things. It can also be baked into pies and made into wine. So elderberry and elderflower are two of the finest diphoretics, helping for colds and flus, and antivirals, antimicrobials, antibiotics on the planet. Absolutely a fabulous herb, and you should all grow orchards of it and buy and sell to the Herb Exchange. Because I just got a call the other day for 200 pounds of elderberries, which I cannot begin to supply. So we all need you out there. The medicinal herb industry is growing by leaps and bounds. I'm sure you're aware of it. And where was I going with that thought? That was a good tangent. Project Herb Association. Oh, the fact that the growers decide what the prices should be for our, and elderberry just jumped from $16 a pound fresh to $18 a pound because the grower came in and said, this is just too hard to garble. I'm just friggin' tired after 21 hours of garbling elderberry, taking it off the stems. And I said, well, what would you like to do about that? She said, well, I'm not being paid enough. And so that's the way we work at the Herb Exchange, is that we're a grower cooperative, and if the market can bear it, we raise our prices. Now, that's a decision that we make individually. We can do it because we're about 25 strong. There are about 25 active growers. We have just under 100 specialty growers, people who supply jujube berries to us from New Mexico, and a couple of growers in New York, Healing Spirits Herb Farm, who I encourage you to support if you ever visit New York, a wonderful couple that supply medicinal herbs to the organic market on the East Coast. What else? We have some wildcrafters in Oregon and Washington that supply to us. But mostly, we have more and more localized with Sonoma County, I would say 9-county Bay Area region. Sonoma County, Mendocino County, into Yolo County perhaps, and certainly Marin is about as far south as we go. We supply, generally we try to keep our range within the local 9-county Bay Area, although as I say, we do ship and supply elsewhere, but we really love the local aspect of what we do. And we believe that we provide the best medicinal herbs that can be had. And we provide in small batches. In 2004, we were granted by the Air Resources Board of California a dryer, the engineering and ducting and so forth, and the solar panels for a solar dryer, which has been a great boon for us because, as you can imagine, the dry herb market is much bigger than the fresh. Fresh herbs primarily go to tincture alcoholic extract makers primarily, and the dry market, of course, goes everywhere else in the world, which is everything else you can imagine that you can see out there that's herbally based or has an herbal component to it. So we've increasingly gone into the dry method, the dry market, and we've encouraged our growers to follow good drying facilities, follow good manufacturing practices, and construct their own drying facilities. I email out to everyone who would like to grow for the Herb Exchange a welcome grower packet, so everyone has a little bit of a description of how the Herb Exchange works and exactly how we operate, and also goes with that a drying treatise, so that everyone will have an idea of exactly what are the best conditions for drying and how herbs need to be dried. It's a very rarefied market to dry a medicinal herb. It must retain its potency. There are some very strict regulations that follow that. It also is accompanied by what I call the future crops needs, which is updated every year, and those are all the herbs that we have the most need for. And so I encourage all of you, if you're interested, to contact us at the Herb Exchange and receive that. We're always looking for
future crop
our
needs?
future crop needs list that I email to anyone that requests it. So these are the herbs that we find we're in most need of. And I would say in general terms, most of that list of 50 are the herbs that many manufacturers would agree are the ones that they find most popular. One of the biggest on that list is calendula flower, easy annual to grow that I'm sure a lot of you grow already. Nettle herb, we just can never grow enough nettle. This is one of the finest herbs on the planet. Some of you may know it, some of you probably use it. It's a herb that's high in calcium, high in vitamin mineral content. It's a biodynamic prep. It's a compost activator. It's just about a cure-all. It's a nourisher of the lungs, of the liver, of the kidneys. Great hormonal regulator. The list goes on and on. Prostate is being treated now, used for prostate regulation and kidney stones. So the list goes on and on with nettle. So there are a number of very easy to grow herbs. The interesting thing about growing medicinal herbs is that many of them are perennials. In fact, I'd say probably 90% are perennials. And so it's a different kind of agriculture that we do with medicinal herbs. None of our growers are cannabis growers, but of course, as you probably know, that's a very lucrative field to be involved in. I know very little about it, except that one of our board members is on the board of Peace and Medicine, the local dispensatory in Sebastopol, who I also recommend very highly. This is a group that's done it right, as I would say. They've certainly become good neighbors of the county and have a very high quality operation. I don't use cannabis myself medicinally, nor do I know much about it, but it's certainly a very lucrative way to go. It's fraught with problems. It's fraught with environmental and ecological problems. It's fraught with regulatory issues. It's not an easy way to go. So we do everything but cannabis, and we are blessed to operate in an area of the world